Hello there, all my wonderful YouTube people. Coming into you in my nice fall Hawaiian shirt. Uh, I haven't seen Joe in a while because I've been doing videos from weird places. Say hi to everybody, Joe. Hi. Joe just turned 40. His birthday was Halloween. Yeah, he's 8 years old. Yeah. All right. Now that we've got that out of the way, um, I feel like I need to do a follow-up video to my video called Modern Women, My Thoughts, because a lot of the comments I got on that video were of the attitude, it seems, and I'm sorry if I'm misreading you guys. My YouTube channel's going to be 20 years old this year, so like it's not like I'm exactly a YouTube rookie and everything. Um, so if I'm misreading you guys, I'm sorry. But from where I sit, it seems like you guys thought that I got with this woman, and there were a series of red flags right away. Okay, this is not a case. Not the case. In fact, I would say not one hugely discernible red flag came up the first several years we were together. 3, 4 years we were together, maybe. I'd say at least the first three. Aside from her lack of hygiene and her immense laziness. That if and those aren't things what those aren't exactly what I would call red flags. They can turn into red flags later in some ways, but I would tend to call those pretty serious character flaws, right? I mean, the entire 7 years we were together, aside from the few times she made dinner at her mom's and brought it over, I mean, literally, I could count all the times I remember making dinner on less than two hands. You know, if that's even counting the times at her mom's. Uh, she made vegetarian spaghetti like here, like shortly after we got together, and I think that's the only meal she ever cooked here in the 7 years she lived here. Okay. Um, Now, I'm not saying it's a woman's job to, be barefoot and pregnant and cooking at home or whatever. I don't necessarily believe that, but I think if, like, a couple are a couple, then they need to, share everything. They need to share all those duties as well, you know. But other than that, there were no like real serious red flags, um, or anything like that. Now, I will say probably the first kind of, hey, I sort of have a problem with this situation was the RPG night I talked about in that video. Um, and you guys keep saying I should have done this or I should have done that. Um, and I did. It's not like I was like, oh, okay, you can just go hang out with your ex every night, or not every night, every week. I kind of got into a fairly heated argument with her about it the first time. Um, Now, it's also the point, probably useful to point out again that there's a 17-year age gap between us. I am pretty firmly Gen X, and she is pretty firmly a millennial. Okay? Um, and being that that's the case, it is very difficult for us to see things exactly the same way. I have a really conservative friend right now, for example, who just loves everything Donald Trump is doing. just loves all of it, right? Like, oh, he's saving the country, I keep hearing that. And it's like this dude doesn't realize that he's in the top 15% of society around here, and most of us aren't. Like, most of the things that Donald Trump is doing is like really, hurting the shit out of most of us. It's not good, right? But there's also a certain amount of kind of like picking your battles here, I felt I could police the situation to a certain extent. I felt I could kind of show up at random times to pick her up and things like that, and I did that. So the entire time that she was doing the game night, I never really, if I'm honest, I certainly had some bad feelings about it, but they weren't as bad as if it was happening more often, or like I said, I couldn't just like be on that side of town and call her and say, hey, I'm out here, I'm gonna come get you, right? And I was usually just a few minutes away, she wouldn't have had time to like scrub the funk off, Now I suppose you could argue that she went over there and she did first thing so she could like shower and all that before they got to gaming, and I guess that could potentially be something that happened. But like I said, there's a certain amount of picking your battles here. There's marriage. I for those of you who haven't been actually married, and like some of you can say like, no, I mean I was with a person for like 9 or 10 years. It doesn't matter. My common law partnership, I was in I was in about the same amount of time, and it felt completely different to this actual marriage. So you can kind of say marriage doesn't matter if you've been together a long time, but I can't exactly explain why it does, but it does. The only thing that I can figure is that now you have a different set of expectations. You have a different set of expectations for a husband or a wife than you do a boyfriend or a girlfriend. Okay? So, at least the man does. It seems like women these days just kind of get to do whatever they want and feel like they can act however they want, and because women aren't slaves anymore and they're strong and independent, they can do that. So a lot of it was sort of compromise, okay? The the first red flag would actually be a really hard one to narrow down. But actually, they didn't start coming up a little more regularly until the last few years of our marriage. So, I mean, we'd already been together for 4 years and married for probably a bit more than one by the time the flags started coming up. Okay? And for you guys to, in the comments, say, oh, you should have just packed that bitch a bag and sent her out. Well, that's not how most men are going to do it exactly. I mean, a lot of men might, but, those men are pretty detached. I actually love my wife. I cared for her a great deal. It's just that it's a little bit of a Billy Joel kind of stranger situation. I just kind of one day came home to a woman I couldn't recognize. Now, I'll go further in this and say that the RPG night wasn't as kind of frustrating and worrying as the amount of time that she was spending with her god sister and god brother-in-law. Yes, I said that. This is one of these women who has a god sister, and her god sister means more to her than her real sister, even. She spends more time with her god sister than with her real sister. So, and I think her god sister and god brother were very poor influences. Not only were they very poor influences, they lived all the way out in Garland, so like not quick to get to or anything like that. In fact, I would say the biggest red flag, I know this is going to sound weird, but the biggest red flag was actually when she took off and made it seem like she wasn't going to take off. She's like, hey, I'm going up to Oklahoma with her god sister and god brother for, a week. I'm going to the noodling festival. And I was like, the noodling festival's like 2 days. Why do you need to be there a week? And then, kind of near the end of that week, she called me and she was like, oh, the godrelatives just willy-nilly bought a house for sale by owner while we were up here, and we're gonna move up here with them, babe. And there's a lot of like really excited talk, and I'm not the biggest fan of Texas at least anymore. I mean, it's getting, those of you who aren't from here or have never been to the DFW or Austin or San Antonio or Houston metroplexes, just have no idea. I mean, it has gotten to where you just can't go fucking anywhere. You can't go anywhere without being in bumper-to-bumper traffic for an hour at some point. It has just gotten just ridiculous. I don't even know I was talking about traffic. It seemed like I was going to segue into something. But I was talking about why I didn't like Texas anymore. It's just gotten hot and crowded, and it's growing less and less diverse in some ways. I like to live in a more diverse environment. It's just I kind of like Oklahoma. There's a lot more open space, even in bigger cities there. It's a little cooler there during the summer. The whole nice Texan thing, I actually hate having to nod my head or say hello at every fucking person that passes me. I'm just not into that. I'm not into people that much. Okay. I kind of prefer people's attitude in Oklahoma where they just leave you the fuck alone. People pass you, they don't say fucking shit. Okay? So I was actually kind of excited. There's also my telecom job. They had just lost the tech in Oklahoma. He'd just retired, so they needed a tech for the whole state. So I told my boss I was going to take it. So when this woman did decide to rug pull divorce, to abandon me and Joe and Ginny, because that's what she did. If she tries to say anything else, she's full of fucking shit. Okay, she abandoned us. Rug pull divorced me after I had procured. Because again, she was supposed to send me the money to fix this place if we were going to do this move. I was going to do the work. She was going to fund it, and rent barely came. Okay, she started dropping the ball on that almost right away. So I had to procure about $1,000 by pawning my own shit. Okay, So I pawned all my own shit, really expensive guitars that were test instruments for the company and stuff like that. And I went ahead and pawned all those, and I got the money, poured my own money into this place, and then she fucking rug pull divorces me, October 4th of 2024. Okay, she just calls at freaking midnight on October 4th, and she's like, "Hey, yeah, I want a divorce." And it's like, you not only did you just make me waste 4 figures on working on this place, because if I'd known you were just going to be like asking me for a divorce, I could have lived in this place as is. I didn't give a fuck, okay? And then two, you've completely fucked up my work situation, because I already told Frank I was taking the state. I still ended up taking the state, but we are literally having to rent a car and drive to Oklahoma like every 10 days. It's not the most ideal situation. It would be much more convenient if I lived in the state. So, and then she even told me by this point she completely loathed me, but I'm not sure why. You know, I didn't do anything to this woman that was untold, and I certainly didn't present her with a situation that she was not prepared for. Okay, I told her flat out that when this RV was paid off, I was going to semi-retire for a little bit and try and find work that I found a little more appealing than retail. Okay, I was just going to move down to my telecom job and just kind of spend some time searching for something else. And I didn't even do that as soon as the RV was paid off. I waited a good while, maybe like another couple of years before I did that. And this was something I told her day one when she came back to Texas, and I went and got her ass to hang out with her that night, and we decided we were going to come in this room and screw, but before I stuck my stuff in either of her holes, I told her that's what was going to happen. Because I knew I was going to try and get into a relationship with this woman, and I wanted to put it out there straight, everything I could think of, I mean, but again, for you guys to say, "Oh, you just leave the bitch," and a lot of guys say this. Even my father says this, like, "You trusted your wife?" Of course, I fucking trusted my. Why would I? And then it seems like I have very different ideas of love. Like, no one seems to view love like I do. I don't think people understand love. Anyone I've met really understands love properly. Okay, because I feel love pretty intensely, and it's not just a thing that I can just shuffle off like it doesn't mean anything. Even a couple of years later, I mean, at this point, she asked for that divorce 3 years ago, and I still am saddened. This still gets in my head, and I think about it, and the fact that she's not here anymore, and like I don't have anyone to kind of help me through this part of my life at all, when I'm going through some rough things physically and stuff like that. I grow very saddened. So for me, love isn't a thing that you can just turn off like that. It's probably healthy if you can, and if we were just boyfriend and girlfriend still, it might have been easier. But I will tell you that I will tell you that if you guys are existing really well as boyfriend and girlfriend, you're probably not really. I mean, chances are things are going to struggle when you get married. Sometimes, to me, it just makes a lot more sense to just not get married. Just be in a relationship together, because with probably over 50% of marriages failing at this point, it is almost not worth doing. Okay, the time and expense and trouble just to get out of it is kind of frustrating. If you two don't see a need to be married and you can exist as a couple and, you know, be faithful or be within the bounds that you two have established for your relationship, and you two feel good that way, then maybe it's an alright way to exist, you know? But just again, this is not something that happened overnight. And all of you guys who are saying, like, you just leave the bitch, just think real hard whether you'd be able to do that. You know, you love this person, you've been with them, you know, with them 4 years at this point, married to them at least one at this point, and you think you could really, if she just wouldn't bend on not going to this thing, you think you could really just toss a bag in front of her and say, well, you better fill that up because you're not coming back here. I'd be willing to bet most men cannot do that. And that does not necessarily have anything to do with being a fucking simp. That has something to do with loving the person you're with a lot of the time. The idea behind a relationship is that you're supposed to compromise. Yes, both people are supposed to get screwed in some ways. You know, you're supposed to be kind of done with all that adolescent bullshit in your life. Okay? I'm going to go ahead and leave it there. The video's gotten long enough. I need to get over to the library. I just wanted to record this here because I was going there and I can go ahead and upload it. So anyway, if you stuck to the end of the video, great. Thank you. Please like and subscribe. I am always trying to grow my channel. Do have a good day. Goemonronin signing out.